Hey guys, it's Mars. Welcome back to my channel where I review horror books with a supernatural focus. In today's video, I have 5 audiobooks that I listened to in June and July. I've been really busy looking for work, and that's kind of been my grind for the last 3 or 4 months. I did have one interview and I didn't get it, but I'm gonna keep on going and hopefully I'll find something, but that's usually what I do every day, all day. So by the time the evening comes, I'm pretty exhausted, so listening to an audiobook has been mwah. I put on a very long craft video, turn off the sound, and then I just listen to the book while I watch somebody, making miniatures or paper crafts or something. It's exactly the kind of de-stressing that I need for the day. So I've been listening to books about cursed families, bloody cannibals, and some really terrifying ghosts. Be sure to like and comment on this video. Let me know your thoughts on these audiobooks. If you'd really like to and you're feeling in the mood, please subscribe. So we're going to start with episode 13 by Craig DiLouie. And this was the first audiobook that I started listening to. And I had no idea how the presentation was going to be. And it was fantastic. It was a cast of people. So there were actors, there was music. It was very immersive. It was like this radio performance, it was really, really cool. It was very entertaining. So if you haven't read it, I would suggest the audiobook because it was fantastic. But let me tell you what the book is about. Fade to Black is the hottest of the hottest ghost paranormal reality TV shows on air. It's led by a husband and wife team, Matt and Claire, who take their team to investigate a building that's called the Paranormal Research Foundation. It is a mansion. It is believed to be haunted, and it has this really weird past of bizarre experiments with the supernatural. So they go into this investigation bringing all of their gear, and some of these people on this team, they're scientists too. They're not just filmmakers. Like Claire, she's very gung-ho. She's very we are going to either approve or disprove this 100%. But of course, things get weird and bad and scary and unexpected, and everything that they're searching for turns out to be way more dangerous and way more out there than they thought. So this book is an epistolatory book, which means that it's told through video segments and scripts and notes and journals, and it was really fantastic. It's basically like a found footage kind of horror book, and I loved it. Of course, like I said, the performance was really, really good, but I really liked the story. I liked this place that they were in and just how the tension was building and how weird it was getting, and you were just sort of stumbling along in the dark with them. And by the end of the book, there's this really deep, intense, and heavy explanation for what ghosts are and the supernatural, things like that. And it was really profound and it was really interesting. So if you're interested in that aspect of ghosts and stuff are cool, but what are they? How do they work? What is it? Why do they exist? What is the point? This was really, really interesting. And I listened to that segment a couple of times because it was just whoa. Kind of mind-blowing, just, a lot of food for thought and really a nice payoff. I think for everything that was happening in the book, it was exciting and it was interesting. It kind of reminded me of As Above, So Below. If you've seen that film, it has those vibes. And Claire, who's this, I think she's a physicist or something. Out of everyone in the group, she's more hungry to figure out what's going on. But she will not be deterred. She will not be distracted. She will not walk away. She's going into the void no matter what. So she's a very interesting character to follow. I thought it was awesome. The next one I listened to was The Graveyard of Lost Children. Let me tell you what it's about. Olivia is 4 months old, and her mother believes that she needs to throw her down a well because there's a woman in that well who's going to return her baby, her actual baby, her human baby, because this baby, Olivia, is not her child, it's something else. And she really, really believes this, and she actually tries to go through with it. Olivia survives, and she is an adult. She's now pregnant. She's very well of her mother's mental illness, and she's kind of afraid that that's going to be her fate too, as well, because, you know, history repeats itself. What if she does this to her own baby? So this had a slow start. I wasn't sure what we were going to be doing with it. This book is broken up in chapters, and each chapter is like, it's like Olivia's perspective, and then there's her mother's perspective. At first, I wasn't really getting too into the book. It was kind of a slow start. The back and forth was, I wouldn't say very confusing, but I was kind of just like having to go back a lot. The story is also about postpartum depression, and it has a very creative, creepy take on that, which I liked a lot. I thought it was pretty cool. Towards the end of the book, I started to like really enjoy it like a lot more. The next one is The Haunting of Alejandra by V.Castro. This was freaking cool. So let me tell you what it's about if you don't know. Alejandra is a young woman who is married to a very successful businessman, and she has a couple of kids, and she lives in a really nice house. And, you know, she has everything that like what you might typically say a housewife might want or something, but she's not happy. And there's a lot of reasons why she's not happy, but there is something going on in her life that's super weird, which is she's seeing this very scary woman. She'll see it in the bathroom, and then it'll just disappear. And she doesn't know why it's happening. Her relationship with her husband is not going well. Her kids are a bit neglected because she's very distracted. So she decides to go to therapy to see if she can help herself. And in therapy, she starts to explore her family roots and her heritage. So eventually she learns that this woman is the La Llorona, which is the crying woman. Very famous legend, folklore in Mexico. And Alejandra has to face this thing in order to save herself and to save her family. This book is very creepy and interesting. And it does a bunch of things that I think are very cool. Like, it goes back in time. We visit like the time of the conquistadors. We visit times before that. And it's very well connected to the story. This story plays with the concept of family curses and like what that means. And for myself, like I never really understood like family curses. And this book gave me a whole entire new perspective on what a family curse could be, what it means. There was a lot of supernatural things going on, so you know I loved that. This also has some themes, you know, of postpartum depression as well. And I read, so it was kind of funny because I listened to Graveyard of Lost Children, and then I would listen to this one all like back to back. There's a lot of similarities, I think, between those two books. There's a lot here about Mexican heritage and also spirituality. If you saw the La Llorona film, directed by Yaro Bustamante from 2019, it has to be that one. You will like this book a lot. So this was really, really good. I think it was deep. I think it was heavy. I think it was imaginative. It took you on a crazy journey, just so crazy. And I love the main character, Alejandra. It also has some gore. So this was very spooky and deep and interesting. And I just really appreciate all of the work that went into making this story because it was just so cool. I absolutely skipped over one book in this list, so I needed to come back and do that. The next audiobook that I listened to was Sisters of the Lost Nation by Medina. I thought this was a horror book. It's not. It's more of a thriller mystery. It does have something that could be supernatural, but it was one of those things in the book where I was like, I wasn't sure if it was an experience that she was having that was more internal or if it was actually something that was happening in the environment. So I'm not sure about that, but this was pretty much more a straightforward mystery for me. This is about a young girl, Anna, who lives on a reservation with her family. And this is pretty much where her whole community is. There's also a casino where a lot of people work. And one day, her sister ends up missing. Grace is gone. And she's kind of like the only one who is really digging into trying to find out like what happened, but not only what happened to her sister, but also what seems to be happening to a lot of young women on the reservation. So even though this book wasn't horror, I really did enjoy it, especially the narrator. Her voice was so vulnerable, and I just really love listening to her tell this story. And it was a really intriguing mystery, and you get to walk through it with her based on how many days her sister has been missing. We get a little bit of a look into life on a reservation and what it's like to be there, about the politics, about corruption, and just what plagues these communities, what it's like to have an unstable home life and to be this young, vulnerable person who's trying to find a way to get answers. So it's really good, really moving and really touching, kind of refreshing to just hear it from the perspective like people in the community as opposed to, outside people coming into a community. We get to learn a little bit also too about some folklore and stories. It was really well written. Like I feel like the way that our main character Anna is processing things and observing and thinking about stuff it just felt like a real person. If you can, try and get the audiobook because the narrator's voice is just really gonna pull you into that story and you're gonna feel very connected to her. Now, the last audiobook I listened to was The Reddening by Adam Nevill. And I love Adam Nevill, so I was very, very excited to listen to this. So this story is about two women who find themselves drawn to Devon. This is like a coastal town in England. One of them is there to just try and relax, and another one comes for personal reasons that have to do with the death of her brother. But these two women get entangled in something very dark and sinister that is a part of this town and has been a part of this town for a very long time. And while they are there is this discovery of an ancient site where there are these very primitive bones and artifacts that are all pointing to cannibalism. And while this is happening and these things are being unearthed, Kat and Helene are getting wrapped up in something very scary. Because there's something about these bones and something about this town that you can't really see on the surface. So this book is interesting. It's dark, it's gory, gritty. It's about cults and cannibalism. It's very, very bleak. That is like a Nevill thing, I think. I really like that aspect. So the mystery of what's going on is very interesting. Like I found myself being like, God, what is it? What is it? What's going on? What is it? Which is always a, main line for me. I think the thing that I enjoyed the most about this book though was all of this like information about these ancient caves and these ancient bones and people and like whoever they were. It was a couple of chapters and it was so cool. It was just kind of going over like all the bones and like where they're from and like what they're about and everything. The ending for me was a little predictable in how it wrapped up. And I was hoping for something different because before I was already getting towards the end, I was already like starting to like, have some thoughts about maybe how it was going to wind up. And it kind of went where I thought it was going to go. I just felt like I've heard that ending before and I just wanted something different. What made it really kind of get under my skin a little bit is a crime, like a true crime that happened in the 1980s. It happened in Cancun, Mexico, I believe. And it was about this abduction and torture of Mark Kilroy. If you look up this case, just be warned, it is all the triggers, okay? It's heinous. These men would abduct people And they would torture them and unalive them, and the reasoning for it was for black magic. And they had a cauldron with human remains in it. They thought that they were accessing some special powers, and they did these things. Really just bone-chilling stuff. So I was thinking of that crime and I think it gave me a different perspective on it. And so that was giving me the chills here because there is some magic stuff going on here as well. Some people said the ritual was the better version of this. I don't know. I haven't read the ritual yet. I've only seen the film, but I know the book is it's pretty different, rather. So I'm not sure. I can't really compare them. I'll have to do that at some point. But if you've read the ritual and the Reddening, can you let me know which one do you think was the better one? So those were all of the audiobooks that I listened to in the last couple of months. I still have some more. These are audiobooks that are left over from my audiobook book haul that I did. I think I have 3 or 4 more to go. Right now I'm listening to The Spite House. That's by Compton. I can't remember his first name. That one's pretty cool so far, so we will see where it goes, just in early days yet. Don't forget that every day is a new day and one step at a time. I'm telling you guys as much as I'm telling myself. Anyway, please take care of yourselves, look out for each other, and I will talk to you next time.